Welcome back to another iDoctor UK video. In this video, I'm going to show you step-by-step instructions on how to replace the screen on the Motorola G53, model number XT2335. To start off this repair, we need to remove this back cover from the phone. And to do that, the easiest way is to use a heat mat, although a hairdryer or heat gun will do exactly the same job. It just might take a little bit longer. Whilst that's heating up, I'm going to pop out the SIM tray and then leave it 5 minutes to get nice and warm. Once the phone's hot to the touch, we're going to flip the phone over and then take a single-sided razor blade and begin prying between the mid-frame bezel and the plastic back cover. Once we've got a small incision in there, I'm going to add a couple of drops of isopropyl alcohol and then take a plastic guitar pick to separate the plastic back cover. I'll just carefully run the pick around all 4 edges of the phone, and whenever I come across any resistance on there, I'll just add a couple of drops of isopropyl alcohol. Because this back cover is plastic, we don't have to worry about cracking any glass like other models of phone, but we don't want to bend it too much. Once you've separated all the edges with the plastic pick, you should be able to just unfold the back cover away from the phone. We can put that back cover to one side now and take the phone off the heat mat. Now that the back cover is removed, we can remove the 15 crosshead screws holding down the mid-frame bezel. All these screws are the same size, so we don't have to worry too much about muddling them up. Just make sure that you keep them all in a safe place for reinstallation later. Don't forget, if you like repair content just like this, make sure you give the video a thumbs up and also subscribe to our channel for more. Now that we've removed the screws holding down the mid-frame bezel, I'm going to insert my guitar pick into the area where the SIM tray usually sits because the plastic's quite soft there, and begin separating that bezel from the chassis of the phone. I'll just run the pick around all the edges to unclip the plastic frame from the phone. Take extra care around the power button because there is a flex cable underneath there for the fingerprint sensor. Now that the bezel's free, we can just lift it off and unfold it, being careful of this flex cable here. We can now lift up this black piece of plastic and disconnect the battery with the plastic spudger. You can now disconnect the power button flex cable as well as the subboard flex cable, and the display cable's hidden under some of this yellow tape. Just peel that back and disconnect the flex with the plastic spudger. The motherboard on this one's held down by a screw just above the camera. Remove that and then use the plastic spudger to carefully lift out the logic board. I always leave these 2 coaxial cables attached, but you can pull them out of the groove that they sit in. We can now remove the loudspeaker, disconnect the 2 flexes on the subboard, and pry up this small subboard away from the phone. The subboard's held down by a small clip. Just pry the board towards the charging port and pop it out. We can now lift up the motherboard and subboard in one and store that safely for later. To remove the battery, I just apply isopropyl alcohol around all 4 edges of it. Whilst the alcohol's soaking in underneath the battery, we're just going to use tweezers to lift up the vibration motor. The same again for the ear speaker. The volume button flex will need to be removed from the side of the chassis. Use the tweezers again for this. If you find that it's stuck a little bit too hard, just add a couple of drops of isopropyl alcohol to loosen that adhesive. The part that I'm going to be using for this one is a genuine Motorola part, and it comes with the frame already attached. All that we need to do now is start repopulating this chassis with all the bits that we took out of the previous chassis. I'll start off with the vibration motor, then the ear speaker. We need to make sure that the flex cable sits inside the little groove that it has, and now that just leaves the volume button and power button be installed last. Now that the isopropyl alcohol is soaked underneath the battery, we can attach a suction cup and carefully lift out the battery to release it. We just need to remove this sub to main cable and we can finally discard this broken screen. Now let's reinstall the motherboard, and I always insert these top end first and ensure that they lay perfectly flat into the housing. I'll now peel back the tape on the display cable and reconnect that into place. Now I'll peel back the blue film for the sub to main flex and install that. Just make sure that you're attaching the right end to the right part of the phone. It is marked out with motherboard MB for the motherboard going to the top and sub for obviously the subboard going to the bottom. We can now reattach the subboard into place, ensuring it clips into that little clip there. And now we realign these coaxial cables with the white cable going to the bottom of the groove and the black one sits on top. It can be a little bit fiddly to get these back into place. If you ensure the black one goes on the top, it's a little bit thicker than the white one and holds them down. I can now reconnect these two cables on the subboard and drop the loudspeaker into place. Now to reinstall the battery, under this blue film is some adhesive to hold the battery into place, and then we'll just place it down where it lives. To remove the suction cup now and apply gentle pressure to make sure it's stuck properly, then line up the connector and reconnect power to the device. We'll just place that black plastic back on top of the battery, bring over our mid-frame bezel, and then reconnect the power button. And we better not forget that single screw holding down the motherboard. Let's fold over this plastic mid-frame now. Apply pressure to all the edges, ensuring that it clips down into place, and then re-secure the 15 crosshead screws. Finally, we can reinstall this plastic back cover, making sure that there's pressure applied to all four of the edges and it's stuck down good and proper. Reinstall the SIM tray and boot the phone. There is a plastic film on this, what makes it look terrible on the video, but I always leave them on to keep my grubby bits off there. But as you can see, we've got image and we can just carry out a basic functionality check now, making sure that touch works, sound works, connectivity works, and everything else. Thank you for watching and see you next time.